Hey guys, it's Adam aka Swimming Bird, and welcome to another Minecraft 1.9 Snapshot. This is 15W43A and B, bringing new natural structures that are deceptively simple on the outside, but they're actually mysterious and seem to hold a dark porpoise underneath. And on top of that, we've also got updates and changes to looting, languages, and more. So let's get into it. And we're going to start with the brand new structure, Igloos. If you didn't guess from the look of this thing, these will spawn naturally and randomly in ice plains and cold taiga biomes, but not in the hill variants. And if you want to find yourself one, there is this seed here, and here's the coordinates of where we are. There are two versions of this, and I'm going to go into the normal one first, and then we'll check out the other one that's a little more interesting. So the normal one here, if you are just starting out in a world and you happen to spawn near one, this is a pretty good first camp. It's a little area here. You could block off the door and hide for the night, or sleep it away in that bed. We've also got nice little ice windows, some carpet, even gray carpet over here to make it almost look like it's a shadow there. Nice little touch, and crafting, furnaces, all that good stuff. Now, this is just the normal one though, so if you break this carpet, nothing will be underneath. But we can travel over, not really too far, only a few hundred blocks away, to this one over here, right near this frozen river. And here's the coordinates here if you want to check it out for yourself. It's actually just in the distance of the one that we're at. You can just see it off there in the distance. So down here, this is the second version. I'll show you guys why you want to break the carpet when you go into one of these new igloos, because under this square right here, dun dun dun, you might find a trapdoor that leads down into kind of a stronghold looking area. And there's something very strange under here. You can see it on the side using one of the other new features this week. There are villagers captured down in this weird little makeshift stronghold. And you can see there's even a sign that points from this priest villager to this zombie priest villager. Now, if you look in the chest here, you can always find a golden apple, one of the normal ones, and a bunch of other loot. But the golden apple is important because if you go to this brewing stand, there's a potion of weakness, and you can grab this and grab the golden apple as well. And you might not have done this before because this is kind of a tough thing to learn on your own. But splash this guy here with weakness and feed him a golden apple. He will start to freak out, and eventually he will turn into his brother over here on the side. Now, this is a natural way of the game to teach you how to cure these zombie villagers and make them into normal villagers, since there wasn't really a way of knowing this outside of the internet or, sharing between friends. But the implications of this place are kind of weird and a little dark. Someone was experimenting on these guys. Maybe they were trying to cure the zombie ones because of the stuff in the chest and the brewing stand there. But they could also be doing weird experiments on zombifying normal villagers. Why else would they have this one caged up? Because he's normal. He should be able to, go free and go live in a village somewhere. But it's just the weird part is that this guy and this guy are both caged up. So this one probably wasn't here by his own will. So it's a little weird. Also, it's like a stronghold, so it's got a creepiness to it. You can also find silverfish in these blocks occasionally, so be careful if you're going to mine this stuff up. Now, this guy is taking a little bit. I think it takes a few minutes to do that. I want to talk about trading, though, because there was an update to the librarian villagers, the ones with the white clothes. Those ones actually charge double now to trade for the new treasure enchantment book. So you can get them from those villagers, but because they're so valuable, the two from last week's snapshot, Frostwalker and Mending, they're actually very expensive. So if you're going to trade for those, make sure you've got a lot of whatever they want from you. Now, and also, speaking of strongholds, like this kind of stronghold-looking place, the number of strongholds used to be only 3 in one world, but has been increased to 128, because in the past, if your strongholds were messed up, say your portal was broken, you couldn't jump in and get to the end and make your way to the dragon. But now there's so many more. Also, this cactus here, I was going to say, is kind of interesting because it shows that whoever built this place was coming from pretty far away. I'm going to let that guy just change. If you want to see what those look like, that's possible in much earlier versions of the game. But he will eventually change into a normal villager. And because of those new skins we got a few weeks back, you can tell which villager he's going to turn into. So yeah, this weird little igloo base was built by someone who must have traveled through a desert and was able to capture villagers. Where they are now, we might never know, but it's a very interesting but somewhat simple seeming structure. I like that there's kind of a story going on there, but it's also a nice place to get some good loot and stuff like that. Alright, so that's pretty much it for the igloos. They seem simple enough though, but I think it's a nice new little structure. I hope they add a few more of these types of things before 1.9 is ready to go by the end of the month. They have those new structure blocks, and it's a lot easier for them to build this type of stuff and add it to the game in 1.9, so I really hope they will do more of that now. So I mentioned looting has changed quite a bit now. There are also things called loot tables that have been added to the game, and you can mess with these in your world folder. You have to edit the JSON file, so this is something map makers are going to do to change the loot that is dropped from different monsters and things that you can find in chests. Now, we can actually summon in a chest here, or set a chest because it's a block, and have it pop up with a loot table that is the dungeon one. So there's a bunch of different loot tables. This is going to be a dungeon loot table chest, and you can see it's got all this stuff in it, but if we were to hit this button again, it changes because it's going to randomize using the dungeon loot each time. And you can also do this in a different way. Say I've got this chest here with a mysterious cacti. You can also do loot table seed in this command, and you can pick a seed and it will always generate the same loot in the chest. So if you have a specific loot that you want to be in a chest, you can do that here. So if I move this around and then hit this again, it will change back into the chest that, you know, the configuration of all this loot. So you pick a different seed and you can figure out what loot seed you want to have, and you can also make monsters drop this stuff. So if you use the summon zombie or whatever you want and then use death loot table, you can do a dungeon loot drop from this guy. So when he dies, even if he dies naturally, he will drop the contents of a dungeon loot chest. You can see all this good stuff here. And then you can also do it with the seeds, just like the other one. So use death loot table and then put in a simple dungeon death loot table seed there. And this guy is always going to drop the same loot. So when he dies, he drops, you can see a bunch of iron, a green record there, and some wheat. And if this one dies as well, he will, or he's already dead, but if he undies, then he re-dies, he will drop the exact same stuff. So you can configure this to make things drop exactly what you want, which is nice, because normally you'd have to, you know, use some other methods to do it, but it simplifies things. I think it's going to help out map makers a lot. And also if you want to set up different chests and different things in your world to make it a little more interesting, there you go. Now, the blocks have changed quite a bit, a few blocks, I should mention, and I need to break this ice because it froze. I'm going to add in some water here, and you guys will see something special. Now, the Frostwalker enchantment that I'm using, the Frostwalker enchantment that we have on here is actually messing with the water. If you didn't watch the last snapshot, then definitely check that out, because Frostwalker is a new enchantment that allows you to walk over water, and it will freeze it briefly, and then as we walk away, it breaks. Now, it had some weird interactions in the last snapshot, so if you had sugar cane growing next to water, and you walked over it, and it made it into this frosted ice here, you can see it even divides it. That's normal ice and frosted ice, very similar looking, but different blocks. Now, that would previously break the sugar cane, but it doesn't do that anymore. And another weird thing, you can put lily pads now on ice or on frosted ice, but when blocks update around it, like placing another one, it will break. So these aren't really great for decorating because they will break when things change around. When the ice melts, it stays, but if it freezes again, they pop off. But it's kind of cool that you can place these on ice now. That's a new feature. Now, Frostwalker will no longer freeze flowing water. So if I was to have some water here, like we had a second ago flowing, I don't have to worry about it freezing the flowing water here and causing a ton of problems. If you guys watched that last snapshot, that was a big issue, and you could do some weird griefing and stuff with that. Also, you know, the sugarcane popping off when the frosted ice pops up was another way you could grief people who have sugarcane farms. So I think they're trying to fix all those issues with Frostwalker. Now, that ice froze naturally, so then of course the sugarcane pops off because we are in a colder biome where the ice is going to freeze. Now, water also no longer has that flowing animation that was so annoying when there is ice next to it. So normally glass, sorry. Right here we've got some glass, and you can see the water is not flowing on the side of that. So if you have like an underwater base and you want to use glass, you don't have to deal with the water flowing constantly next to it. Now, game mode, if you were to switch, let me get on the ground here before I do this so I don't take fall damage. If you were to switch game modes, it now shows up in the chat. So it says game mode survival, game mode creative. It tells you in the chat there, and there's a few other things that do that as well in the snapshot. Brewing, in the last snapshot, they changed it to where the brewing stand, you guys saw when I grabbed that potion of weakness, but brewing stands have a new little thing from last week that you have to put blaze powder to power them, and it would take 30 uses before that blaze powder filtered out of here, but now it takes only 20, which still isn't too bad. If you've got a lot of blaze powder, I don't think it's going to matter too much. You can get a bunch even from one blaze rod, but it does make brewing a little more expensive. Now, there are some bugs right now with a bunch of different mobs, and some of them aren't dropping the right equipment when you spawn them in. They're not dropping the right thing, and a bunch of the animals and, spiders, different things like that, guardians, rabbits, they're all kind of messed up because of this new loot table, but they're going to fix that in bug fixes so that everything drops the right equipment and stuff. But be careful if you do play this snapshot, because if you let a zombie pick up your armor and you kill it, it might not drop your stuff, things like that. Spiders actually drop more of their eyes now, which I think is a nice little feature. They're going to, more likely to drop their eyes because they have so many of them. It makes sense. And Elder Guardians will drop dry sponges on their, when you kill them instead of wet sponges. So just a little difference, but they're kind of messing with a lot of the loot and stuff like that. Now, you guys probably noticed in the corner something a little weird next to my sword there. That's actually the new Captions and Subtitles. They finally finished them. You can go into options and music and sounds to turn these on and off. And even if, you aren't hard of hearing or deaf, this is kind of a cool thing to have. It's almost like you have like a spider sense. Because listen, or not listen, but read, as you can see, it just said minecart rolls. Now, I thought this was a funny coincidence. I didn't happen to build my base here, or, I just found this igloo. I didn't do this for any reason. But it revealed to me that, through sound wall hacks of this feature, that there are mine shafts down here and minecart tracks where the loot chests are. And because of those, the little subtitles, the captions, told me that a minecart was nearby. So you can kind of, scope some stuff out, or it'll give you at least a little bit of a warning about stuff around you if you're using that. Maybe you've got music on and you're not listening to the game. You'll have this little text warning, and I like how it's down in the corner. It's not really that invasive. It only takes up a few spots. Even if there's a bunch of sound effects and things going on, it's not really going to fill up too much of your screen. And yeah, you can see, and it'll start to fade once the sound effect stops playing. So it'll keep, it won't be faded out when it's playing, like the water splashing or the zombie groaning. But once that is done, it will start to fade out. But yeah, I just think it's first of all, it's really nice that, there's this option for people who can't hear, that they can actually play this game and not get killed by a monster that they don't see in time and stuff like that. And the other thing about it, you notice these little arrows when I'm walking and stuff. It's actually showing the direction that the sound is coming from, so you know where to look. And with footsteps, it alternates because, we're stepping back and forth here. But it'll tell you where a sound is coming from, so you can find it a lot easier that way. And it's nice that there's a lot more distinction between sounds now. They've just really fleshed out this feature that they've been working on for quite a while. So it is a nice addition to the game. And I think it'll be useful even for people, like I mentioned, I think people might use this just to have another heads up as to what's going on around them in the world. A few more things here. Speaking of languages and things like that, Chinese, Japanese, and Korean, those characters were not working in the chat, but now you can type them in if you've got, a keyboard, or you can paste them in if you, copy and paste. If you're able to do that, you can now do that with a lot of the Asian languages. And the other big thing with the debug screen, there's actually a little help thing. You can see on the left, down at the bottom, it'll tell you how to use the different debug features. So this is another thing that's not a secret in the game anymore. So if you hold Shift and push F3, you get this little pie chart about how your game is running, and you can do Alt and F3 to get a nice little graph as well on your frame rate, things like that. And there's a few other little features that might be a little more useful for most players, such as being able to hold F3 and push F, and it will increase your draw distance or your render distance by 1. So you can keep doing this to pump that up, or you can hold F3 Shift and push F by default, and you can lower it down. So if you don't want to go into a menu and you quickly want to change your frame rate, say you're like, oh, I want to make it spooky in here, just do this. Hopefully this doesn't crash my game or something, but we can make it super foggy here for Halloween. Or we could, increase this very easily by just tapping a bunch of times while you hold F3. There we go. So yeah, there's a benefit. I mentioned last time that my graphics card died, but with the new one, I am happy, even though I missed a few videos there for you guys, that now you can put a higher render distance so we can see that other Igloo from where we are if we look far enough. But yeah, so there's a lot of other features now on the F3 screen for you to test out, and you can reload all sounds with F3 plus S. It'll reload your resource pack, and oh, sorry, that was the old one. F3 plus T is your reload your resource pack. There we go. So it reloaded everything there. And that's another thing, is that all this stuff pops up in the chat now, so you can keep track of what you're doing, things like that. And that is pretty much it. So here's the seeds again, or the seed and the coordinates again, if you want to check these out for yourself in the newest snapshot. But again, if you missed last week, the 1.9 snapshots are going to be feature complete at the end of October, so very soon here. And then once that's done, they're going to focus on bug fixing and getting this out to you guys to play. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to leave a like, then I appreciate it. And if you want to subscribe if you haven't, thank you as well. Thank you to everyone who's already subscribed, of course. And I will see you next time for some more Minecraft snapshots.